Coming up on AI Unscripted, join hosts Dan Brown and Eric Carey as they explore the revolutionary world of artificial intelligence reshaping business landscapes. In this episode, they examine Meta's groundbreaking Llama 3, discuss its vast implications across various industries, and reveal how companies like Moderna are leveraging custom GPTs to drive innovation and efficiency. Don't miss out. Tune in to discover the future of business and technology, sculpted by the advanced capabilities of AI.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody, this is now episode 4, episode number 4 for AI Unscripted, and we are looking forward to getting started today talking about everything from Llama 3 release all the way to the custom GPTs and Moderna and these large corporations starting to use AI into their normal daily routine. So we're really excited to start seeing this movement towards the actuality of actually using these AI GPTs. So we're not going to waste a lot of time in the beginning. We're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot we want to get talking about today. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started talking about this. Obviously, I'm Eric Carey. I'm here with Dan Brown again today, and we are going to start off today, kicking it off with the Llama 3 release. Meta AI dropping their Llama 3, and we've had a couple of days to get some reaction out of that from the media and the users and all the above. So, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. See what's your thoughts on all of it.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. So I was never a huge Facebook fan, still not really a Facebook fan, but I think one thing they're doing really well, and they have actually done in the past, is they open source a lot of AI stuff. And in the world in which, there's the possibility where you just have a few big companies that control this, it's really nice to have open source models that are pretty powerful. And it also gives you the flexibility like we talked last time. Actually, it was perfect. We talked about open source last time because this is Llama 3 coming out from Meta. Is now a model that basically is almost as good as ChatGPT 4, so in text generation, and it's not multimodal, meaning you can't upload images, but it can create images on their site. So it's like they've given this one open source version of it, which is great for developers. You can create and businesses and create a lot of amazing things with it and personalize the model and fine tune and train it on your own data. And then some pretty cool stuff like on meta.ai where you can play around with this, and it's completely free. People can use this free. So it's now it's like there's ChatGPT 4 is free. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so on meta.ai, one of the cool features is you can create images as you type. So like you can say, create a man on the moon, and then it immediately creates a man on the moon. And then you can say with red hat, and then it puts a red hat on it. And so as you keep typing, it changes. It's so quickly generating these images. It's insane.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about it is, I went in there and played around, and it is fun that you can sit there and start typing the most random things. And it's just amazing to watch it pop up in real time. I mean, we're talking like the second you're in the middle of typing it still, and it starts generating what you're typing. It's just amazing to see how can even, it just amazing. It still amazes me of how fast it can go.
Yeah. And it's high quality images. And so I just think that it's like, okay, since DALL-E 3 came out, and then now you have this where it's creating just in one sentence as you're typing, you just see it flashing up all these different images. And it's also just pretty insane for how quickly that has evolved, right? And that's kind of like a common theme that we're seeing is that this is evolving very quickly.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is Meta's Llama 3 is really changing the way that we interact with AI and GPT or Chat GPT and versus, they both have revolutionized it. But Meta, it seems like they've pushed the envelope in certain aspects of it a little bit further of just how we interact with it on a daily basis. So I look at the tool of it being able to generate these images instantaneously. It's a neat tool. It's a fun tool. This is the type of tool that you go to your holiday or family reunion or gathering with your friends and you play around with it, showing how cool it is. What do you think though the actual functionality of it in the real world, we'll say the business world, how do we feel like that Meta AI's Llama is going to actually affect what businesses do?
Yeah. So previously, like one of the best open source models was Llama 2. And then, well, for a while, and then some other ones came out, but without getting into the weeds of it, they kind of been leading the path in the open source, really kind of like ChatGPT like models. And what this allows a business to do is you could, let's say you're a hospital, let's say you're a financial institution, let's just say you have a lot of proprietary data and your customers do not feel comfortable with you giving that to OpenAI. You can fine tune a model, which means basically train the model in a much cheaper fashion than what it costs OpenAI or Meta, and on your data, and you can use this locally, like we were talking about this last time, if you have your own GPUs. And so it allows you to have a ChatGPT-like experience with privacy or without giving away your company's data to OpenAI. You can run it locally on premise at your business. Now, of course, you have to buy a few GPUs, but for some of these larger companies, that's not a big deal. And so not everyone's going to do that. Some people might just run Llama 3, at AWS, or just like host it like they use cloud services, but it gives you more flexibility. Right now, you're only allowed to use ChatGPT in the way that ChatGPT, like you can't fine tune and train a model. When you fine tune a model, you can add data into its training set, which then makes it act differently. With OpenAI, you can tell it different prompts and have it to do different things in the system instructions, which is kind of what tells it what persona to take on. And so this is really, when you have open source models, it allows developers to do much, much more. You're basically giving them the base foundation model, which they can build all of their data on top of it in a much more integrated way.
I think that makes a big difference because, like you said, ChatGPT, it seems like you got a lot more. It feels like it's got more business use to it, just based off of where we're currently standing as of today. But I agree with everything you're saying. There is going to be a big push for more, localized language learning models, and I think Meta AI is doing a good job of trying to keep the big guys off their back, because as Zuckerberg had said before, in different aspects of it, they've always been at the whim of Apple, allowing them to be able to do certain updates to their app or not up to that, because Apple has to agree with it first. And you kind of don't want one company having control of what you can and cannot do. And so I respect what they're doing of pushing that, of making it more about independent thought on it.
Yeah. And just one real quick thing I kind of missed here is that you can fine tune OpenAI's model. But you have to then you give them all of your data, and then you have to trust that they're not going to save it. Whereas this one, you can literally not even have your GPUs connected to the internet and be running this and training it, and it's literally never connected to the internet ever. So it's just really kind of cool that you can do that.
Yeah, no, I think that was smart on their end. I mean, from anybody, you always want to have access to control and access to data. That's where you're going to get money. I mean, that's why anything, the classic saying, if the product is free, then you're the product, because they're getting your information and selling it from there. And a lot of people don't care. I mean, you're like, I don't got nothing to hide. They can have access to my information. But the more and more we get into it, and the more and more data they're collecting, I mean, now they can already collect your basic, used to is they wanted your name, your email address, and what's your likes, so they could sell it to different advertisers. But they've already have access to more and more of that. So what kind of, the people, especially from a business perspective, of how much more they're going to push and push. And they, like you said, they have access to the data, which means could they share that information with other competitors if someone came around and paid enough for it, So I get definitely of the appeal of this for a business standpoint.
Yeah, it's good competition. It makes them, it's always good to have competition.
Well, a lot of the things that we've also talked about, we've been talking a lot about AI, and what its potential is, and how it can be used for different things. One of the things that I think that you and I are both excited to see about is the reality of seeing businesses start to use it. And we've been talking about it for a long time, but we're actually starting to see in the news, there's starting to be little articles drop here and there where these businesses are starting to do testings in certain areas. One of the things that dropped recently was with Wendy's, and using fresh AI through their drive-through. You now have the capability at certain test markets that they have, and where you can pull up the drive-through and an AI is talking to you. It presents your options of what you have as you order, and which significantly prevent at least the order part of it, of them ordering you wrong. Now, when it gets made, it's different, but you can clearly see your options and what you can and cannot do on the screen, and it talks you through it. I think this is a big step forward. I know a lot of the big fear would be is it's going to take a job away from someone taking your order, but again, we've talked about that before. There's other avenues for other jobs with this. So what are you thinking about with fast food especially is an interesting one to see it start taking the first leap towards this.
Yeah, I mean, like, this just makes complete sense. It's like self-checkout at a grocery store. It's very low stakes. If they get it wrong, you can see exactly what you're ordering and it comes on the screen in front of you. My only thing is, like, when I saw that was, I just don't want them to be like, hey, do you want to try this and this and this? It's just like, I just wanted to take my order and go. So it could very easily, you already go to some of these places like McDonald's or something, and it'll already have a recording before the person comes on, but it sounds like person. But then the real person comes on, you can hear that they're a different voice. So
it's very awkward at McDonald's.
Yeah,
when they're asking if you're using your rewards today, it's like,
yeah. So it's, I think it's like just very simple implementation. I think this is like, this will take off really easily. And so, just like self-checkout. And also, if you go to McDonald's, there's kiosks inside sometimes too, where you can place your orders. So I think that this is exactly what this technology is like, just really, really good at. It's really good at hearing your voice and understanding what you're saying. It's good at, so it's like just speech to text and then, doing what it normally does.
So, it makes you want to imagine, like, what's the next step of these? So, as AI, let's go forward 10 years from now, or no, let's just go forward 3 years from now. With AI, I mean, even though you have privacy issues, and that's where the first comes in, but let's just forget about privacy issues. So it almost seems like it'd be nice to, to pull up to a drive-through or pull up and it recognize you. You've been here before, and this is what you commonly order. So it puts it up on the screen. Hey, this is what you normally order. Do you want to order this again? And kind of like your app does already. If you have this Chick-fil-A app or whatever, it remembers your most common orders. I could see it taking that leap because it'll be facial recognition, or it'll pick up your phone, or whatever the scenario is as you approach the drive-through.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, and this is where I think, like, you can do that. So then I say, what is the way to do this where we maintain the most amount of privacy, right? So the facial recognition, I don't think that's a good idea. You can look at a license plate, I guess, but still, maybe you don't, because we want to, I believe, this is where I want to embrace this technology, but I believe it should be done in ways that, it's like not, we shouldn't cut corners and then all of a sudden be like, oh, well, this is, because a lot of people don't like this. I actually got so many more, I'm so passionate about this. I'm always talking about my startup, and man, sometimes people are like, AI is just horrible, and they go down this path. And I understand like where they're coming from. I don't agree with them, but I can understand where they're coming from. So I think that McDonald's would never do that because it is too close to what everyone fears. So therefore, they'll just be like, hey, bump your phone on the, you can use near field communication, NFC, from your app and bump it, on a device that's right there, right? And then it will know who you are. So I think it'll be done like that because this technology has the ability to be so creepy, and that is very much the downside of this that I don't like either. That it would be smart for companies not to do things like that, even though it seems like low hanging fruit, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe people don't care, but it's not like we're at the airport, right? At the airport, they scan your face. You don't really have a choice. But we're at McDonald's, and I'm not quite sure I'm cool with like the trade-off of McDonald's,
I mean, And you think too, like it's generational. So, what may or may not be accepted now will, maybe 30 years from now would be accepted. So I think companies also have to take that into big consideration as AI, because AI is taking off very quickly. And the possibilities and the capabilities are there. But like you said, there's a lot of skepticism towards it, to be able to make sure that you're not, you don't want to push it too fast and people reject it. You want companies need to be careful and make sure they're adapting and adopting these things, in in an appropriate manner to not scare off people, because you have right now, you have Walmart being in the news where there's one or two Walmarts right now currently taking out their self-checkout, or the self-checkout lanes, and replacing them back with normal because of the pushback, and on top of that with theft, that they're starting to get. So they're starting to realize that maybe they pushed it too much in certain areas. But so you don't want for companies to go in and invest all this money into this new technology, and then you have people push back on it. So I think it would be smart for them to integrate it with privacy always, at the front of everything they think about.
Ideally, it's just a seamless transaction for what we already have. And that's why I think it's so nice. You go there, you just quickly say what you want. It's still pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
Like ordering for like a few people in the car, and then boom, you see it on the screen. You're like, all right, cool, ready to go. You don't have to wait. You'll automatically, sometimes you get there and you have to wait. So I think that to me is like this low hanging fruit that we're going to see just implemented over the next year everywhere. Like these types of things are just going to be so easy to implement. And, in just even some websites, actually one of these custom GPTs I tried the other day, it's called Custom Ink Quick Order. And it is a great example of a custom GPT that acts as a personalized salesperson to onboard you. And what they do is they sell t-shirts. They sell like t-shirts, hoodies, like all these things where you want to personalize it with like your company logo or whatever. And I was like, okay, I want to try this. Just curious how well it works. And it was great. It onboarded me. It asked me what I was looking for, and then how many I was looking for. And there's like, oh, maybe, here's given you want 20 shirts, here's like the most common amount of like small, medium, large you should have, based on, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I uploaded my logo. It automatically like sent me an email like with all this stuff on there. And so I just think these personalized onboarding, order taking, anything where you're talking and just saying what you normally want, like all of that stuff can be put into a chatbot. And so I think like that's the world of personalization that we like you're getting to. And so it's it's probably not that far from like when you're like walking down the street in the city and you're like, I need directions, and you just like can ask a garbage can, because the garbage can has a locally running, very low powered, locally running model that just knows all about that area. So like if you asked it about the news that day, it's not going to answer. But if you ask anything about any of the restaurants around or where you need to go, it'll be like, oh yeah, you take a right here, you go down to that street, blah blah blah. Like and so and you could easily do that now. Like there's these open source large language models that are really small that can run on a Raspberry. It's going to be interesting.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because do you remember like in the early 2000s, everything started having a screen, right? I mean, I remember refrigerators started having digital screens at that time, and like they were talking about how you could check the weather, and you could listen to Pandora on the time. It's all these different things that you could do, and it seemed really cool. And then the people who bought them, I think the functionality and the way it worked was not as it was cool when you first got it, but then the coolness wore off.
Maybe in the future or something, but
yeah. I mean, and also, it can go back to customizing things. I think we've talked about that almost every episode of customizing AI. Chat GPT, with OpenAI, they recently started pushing out where the memory of all your conversations. So your AI will start to adapt to your conversations that you've had, and they gave you some control over what you can and cannot do with it. But I don't know how many times, because you have a conversation, and for those who use ChatGPT a lot, it's really nice because you have like, for example, if you're doing a project and you're using it for one, it'll start to remember like how you're telling it to do in that one conversation. But then once you've used up so much, it starts getting really slow. It starts getting sluggish, and then eventually it kind of caps out, and then you have to start over. A lot of times when I'm starting a new conversation topic, at the very end, when it's starting to get sluggish, I'll tell it, okay, give me a prompt based off of our conversation that I can feed a new conversation so it will remember kind of what we're talking about. And it's not perfect, but it's close. So the fact that it can remember from conversations and help, I think is a significant improvement on it.
Yeah, and I haven't messed too much with it. I saw the notification. I got the sense that it'll remember, like, some of your preferences and certain things, but not necessarily like your whole conversation, right?
Right.
Because like I'm pretty sure it's just feeding it into the system prompt every time you're going back and forth. So it knows, hey, your name's Dan, this are your preferences. Like, but yeah, no, this makes total sense. I mean, I last year was thinking about building something like this, and I'm like, really quickly was like, yeah, I'm not gonna focus heavily on that as the core product, because that's gonna be something that's gonna be part of this. But I think everyone's gonna start doing this, right? Is that if you have a model, you start allowing people to control what the model can remember and put in the background so that you're personalizing your experience, right? I think I talk about personalizing so much, but it's like, that's what these things are so good at. So the more information you can give it in terms of like your preferences, the better your experience is going to be. Just like the more information you give it into what you want to do, and the more clear you are with like what you want to do, the better the outcome of like it's like what you're prompting or what you're asking to do is going to give you a better, outcome. And that's why a lot of times I'll just talk to it. Literally, I'll just use the app on the iOS app, press, and I in the prompts, when you look at it, it looks like garbage because I'm talking like normal, like this, but it's still good at understanding. And so, yeah, no, it's I've been waiting for that to come out, and then I got to play a little bit around with it and kind of see what I see how well it does.
Yeah, I mean,
one thing I was going to say.
Go ahead.
My biggest unlock, I believe, is having a huge context window. Meaning, when you're saying it would forget, it's because it has a certain amount of words it can remember, basically, before it starts to forget. And still, Gemini 1.5 Pro, only available at Google AI Studios for free, because it's in preview, up to 10 million words or tokens. So I guess it technically is like 750,000 words, but anyway, awesome. So awesome. You can upload videos, audio, things you can't do in ChatGPT. This should be the talk of the town. Still isn't. I love that thing. And so people should try it.
That's a good point. I mean, that really does, the whole, there's always when it comes to sales techniques, the first person to talk is the person who owns the conversation. And that, I think, goes into in a lot of things in life. OpenAI was the first to put their product out there, and Google is, it's Google. I mean, right? They're the top dog when it comes to technology and the money they put forth. And no matter how much money they can put forth and advertising and all the above for their product with Gemini, they still struggle to break the news as much as what OpenAI can do with just something simple. And it's just because OpenAI was the first one to put it out there.
I think they're about to. And my prediction is the day they do, ChatGPT buries the news and does something big. And that's kind of what they've done. They've been really good at, the minute Google does something amazing, OpenAI comes out and makes like the Sora announcement or whatever, where it can take the videos or whatever. So whatever, I'm looking forward to Google making an announcement then. So ChatGPT, I love the competition. If there's not competition, I'm going to get very, very scared. And I'll probably be like, all right, it'd be like unplug the AI then. Because if there's no competition, that means there's one clear winner. And that means
all the resources are going to that winner, and that's not good when it comes to, especially with the potential privacy issue that you can have with AI. So
yeah, and I just continuously believe that the more people can use these tools by getting access via the API, getting access to open source models, that's where the true innovation is going to come. That's where all of these micro businesses that we talked in like our first show about, it's about where there's opportunity and empowerment for everyday people to climb the economic ladder, start a business, do it. Like those things are needed, right? And it's only when there's this competition. That's why it's so exciting right now. This extreme competition is making these companies offer these models in ways that I don't think they would if only one company had this technology. I think they'd be milking it, and we would not be able to use it the way we can in developing products that are like taking magic and putting it in your product, and offering that to somebody.
Well, it feels weird to even for me to utter these words I'm about to say, but it kind of makes you want to promote Meta AI and within Llama 3 for privacy type issues, because you want the company, because I mean no one ever trusts Facebook when it comes to privacy. I mean they're one of the original ones that harvested your data for a free product with Facebook. But at least now they're at least surface level, they're attempting to say that they want that as an option out there for privacy concerns. And so it makes you want to make sure that those, as they're probably a third wheel at the moment when it comes to Google, OpenAI, but you want to push them a little bit because you want the other people to realize that, hey, that's a big concern of everybody.
Well, and real quick, because I want to make sure Meta doesn't get too much credit here. So I don't think they care about privacy. I think they're doing this because the power of open sourcing something is that everyone then works on it, and then you get free feedback. You get it's almost like the world starts working on your product, and it makes it better for you too. And they're very interested in having a world-class large language model, because they have to review all of the content on Instagram, on Facebook, on all these, and all these things they own, and they flag stuff. And that's what I think they're interested in. They want a model that is going to help them save time and money, not having to use people to flag stuff. And they're going to use a large language model, right? So I just happen to think Meta, I like them right now because they're providing the open source. But of course, they have their own, they're doing this to save money, right? And just like they've open sourced other things in the past, which most companies do, because they know that if it becomes an industry practice or industry standard, it's then going to save them money. So the amount of money it took, OpenAI or Meta to create this, they're actually going to get massive savings because they're getting the world to kind of work on their product and make it better for them. So in the current moment, it's great because it's great for developers, and I'm really excited about as a person developing with AI, it's great. But other than that, Meta might not be on my, might not be one of my, I might not be one of them, a year from now. I don't know. We'll see.
And that's what I was saying before. Is like it was even hard for me to even mention it because they have had a history of that. But with that said, kind of like keeping where companies are still trying to focus with AI. One of the things I know that we've noticed recently came out in the news, not noticed, but discovered in the news. I know you had sent me this information within a couple of hours of the news even being released, and it was very exciting. Is that Moderna is out there revolutionizing healthcare with AI by using OpenAI's custom GPTs to better their product, better their research, and to make things better. Now, anytime you have a large company, whether it's drug related or medical related, you always kind of have it raise an eyebrow with them. But at the same time, I'm loving the advancement that they're making with this.
So what's so cool about this is that, so obviously I'm working on Inquest AI, and my whole idea is that you're sharing conversations, you're sharing bots, you're sharing GPTs in order to help other people learn. And the crowd is always going to learn from each other better, right? And you find someone that is similar to you and you can learn from them. And it's much easier than trying to understand everything, because you can't, because this is a continuous learning journey. It's happening too quickly, and there's too many AI tools. And so many people have been thinking that custom GPTs were not, were kind of not going to work. And Moderna partnering with OpenAI and mentioning this to me is really exciting, because it's kind of like it verifies kind of like what I was thinking in terms of that these are going to be tools that people use. And so some real quick things on this is that Moderna's, I'm just going to kind of read some of the things from the press release they said. So Moderna's objective was to achieve 100% adoption of generative AI by all of its people with access to digital solutions in 6 months. So it looks like they did that. And so it says, we believe in collective intelligence when it comes to paradigm changes. And that's where I think they're looking at how making, sharing across teams how they're using AI. And so some of the things they said is that Moderna has had 750 GPTs across the companies created, 40% of weekly active users created GPTs, and each user has 120 ChatGPT conversations per week on average. Some of the examples they gave were a GPT pilot called Dose ID, and they gave this long description, so I'm just going to kind of like try to keep it simple. But the idea is that when choosing the amount of doses to use for like a clinical trial, there's all this research that goes into it. And essentially, once they choose a dose, they're kind of locked in on that dose because a clinical trial takes a really long time. So now they're using this GPT to upload all this research to be like a knowledge base and help the researchers go back and forth to decide and ideate on like doses that they should try. And then it would give all the sources and for all the research of why. So it's kind of cool. And then this was really interesting. Moderna's legal team boasts 100% adoption on ChatGPT. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And they said and so they just gave us a few examples. Like I'm sure they're not going to give like all the things they're doing. But one thing they said is contract companion GPT basically creates a readable summary of any contract that they upload. And I'm sure it does more because they probably have this for all these different types of contracts. And you could probably say, hey, flag contracts that have red lines about X. Like they don't really go into the details here. And I think that that we all know that GPTs can be far more complex. And then once you give it the next base model, which I keep talking about, they're going to become very powerful.
Yeah.
Another one, and the last one we'll do here is just like the Moderna corporate brand team. They say they help it to prepare slides for quarterly earnings calls. And then this is kind of funny. They have another GPT that helps convert biotech terminology into approachable language for investor communications, which, I'm guessing that's, like really great use of it. And so there's much more to this. People should go read it. Like I keep trying to tell people is that it's so important to be thinking about how you can use AI in your company to be more productive. And it seems like they're doing a lot of this with research, but when we can talk about some of these, so I'll kind of stop talking here, but this is something that all companies should be thinking about, big and small. And, that's something like I'm talking about, like my platform all the time is that we've got the public version where people can learn publicly, but then we have private groups, and we're soon to have an organizational level where you can use our whole site for your organization to then share these GPTs or conversations. And then more importantly, not just OpenAI ones, because I believe there's going to be Google ones announced soon, like Google GPTs. Microsoft already has custom, they're called co-pilots, they're custom GPTs. And so you're not going to want as a company to lock in with one company. You're going to want to have access to all the AI tools, all the custom GPT-like tools, and all the APIs from all the models, because they're different. They're all better at different things. And so anyway, really excited about this because it kind of verifies like what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
You're right. And to kind of go back, for any company that's out there right now that's not investing and looking into, have a team looking into how you can benefit from using GPTs and custom GPTs and with AI, you are going to be behind. You're going to be left behind very quickly. This is one of those moments to where you will have a shoulda, coulda, woulda if you haven't already started. And now's the time to do it. And to always constantly, there's plenty of resources out there. AI is can be a scary thing if you don't know. You're not a person who deals with technology very much. You keep up with it, but not enough to kind of go. There's many clips out there with people talking about the internet in the around 1995, 94, 93, and almost laughing at it about how businesses would be using it, as e-commerce was not even a thing at the time. You go back and you look at, we've talked about this before with Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster not adapting, they're keeping the brick and mortar stores. Netflix was pushing out by mail. You could get DVDs in the mail at the time. People laughed at it and didn't adapt. And look at those companies who did not. They are no longer there. They had to go under. So my point in all this is that now is the time. Now it's time to look into it. Reach out to somebody. If you don't know anybody yourself, reach out. There's plenty of teams out there. You and I, that's the reason why this is what started you and I all together, is that we both had a GPT. As soon as it came out, we saw the benefit of it.
Yeah.
We both started playing around with it. We both started making our own GPTs and started looking at business aspects of how to do it. You and I became very well into the industry of having to use these. And we know what we can do and what they can do to benefit each business. So I agree. I mean, I think this is very exciting. I've watched the video, read all the press release many times. This is going to be something that's huge.
Yeah, you just made me think of something too as you were talking. So like Paul Krugman, I think it's Krugman. He's like a famous economist. He said back when this was back when the internet was like coming out. He said that the internet's effect on the world economy would be no greater than the fax machines. And I think it was like one of his biggest blunders. And it's a great example of like, right now, a lot of times when I'm talking to people, it's sometimes people, I feel like I'm talking to people, like this is what it must have felt like when the internet came out, right? If you have a product or service you're trying to deliver, but then like, right before the internet and you're talking about the internet and people are like, they just don't get it, right? And now they can't imagine a world without it. And so also getting back to your point, yeah, like people need to be thinking about this constantly, because this is it's a general purpose technology. It's like electricity. It's going to go into everything. And companies have CTOs, chief technology officers. They need to have chief AI officers. And that person literally should be like spending all day just researching all the new stuff happening in AI, because that's how much time it takes to truly understand what's going on. And that's why most people don't, they can't do this. And that's why it's like, I don't want to talk too much about it, but why I'm so passionate about like the Inquest AI, right, is the social platform of you subscribe to people like you that are using AI in the ways that you want to use AI. And so you just get a personalized feed every day of what conversations they're using, or like what are they doing in their conversation with AI, and what bots they're using, what GPTs they're using, because it's this, like I said, continuous learning journey. And businesses need someone to be thinking on a business level. How is this going to impact our business? What like the products we have now, are they going to be obsolete in a year or two? The products we have now, can we make them even better? So most companies need to just tell their employees and all these people and the decision makers what all of the capabilities AI can do. Not everyone knows that. They need to train people and incentivize people to use AI on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And whether it's just talking to ChatGPT, and then they need to make them become tool builders, right? So it's this process before you can even get them to be building these custom GPTs in meaningful ways that companies should start taking now, which is show your employees how all the different possibilities of AI, because it's a mindset shift. Like it's a mindset shift to think about this, and then get them using AI on a daily basis, because they're going to become your internal AI tool builders that are going to come up with probably the best ideas. And then you crowdsource those ideas and become best practices in your company, because the top-down approach won't work. It won't be fast enough. You'll get beat by other companies.
Hands down. And some of these companies that are highlighting it right now is right here it tells you the companies that are benefiting from it, they're already getting marketing from it or in advertising, because people are talking about you're getting in the news because they're adapting to it early. So it benefits you to not only to not get left behind in the future, but because other companies are going to do it. But also the sooner you do it, the more you're ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. And on top of everything else, it's not just the fast food. It's not just healthcare. I mean, we're looking at everything from like hospitality. I mean, can you imagine what AI can do for Hilton and the Marriott and all the above when it comes to just checking in? And that's just we're just touching base on it. Because, hotels are all about wanting to customize the experience for people. There's so much that you could benefit on that. But legal and compliance, those are huge for companies, because every I don't care what aspect you are in healthcare or whatever, compliance and having contract, being able to have a GPT that can pull up a contract for you, you can tell it a scenario, and it will be able to look at that contract and compare and give you advice and concepts of what can be done. Dan and I, we've both have been dealing with this. We both been talking to other companies out there and other businesses out there where we know what they're thinking, and we do a lot of research ourselves. And so I think it's a big deal. And if you're not already on it, look for a team that can help you, because they're out there.
And some of the biggest things I see when I talk to company leaders is they're looking for what their AI strategy is. They're saying, how can we engineer products faster? How can we bring products to market faster? What AI tools we need? What AI tools should we build? And my whole thing is always like, you have to create a culture of like AI thinking and AI engagement within your company first. There's a pipeline that's going to take some time. People are not used to talking to chatbots to get things done. We are, because we've been doing it for the past year and a half. Not everyone else is. It's easy for them to learn, but it takes time to change the habits in your mind of when to pick up AI to do something, even if it's just going to save them 10 minutes. But if that's multiple times a day, that adds up. And so the creating that AI first thinking culture is one thing. So you have to create the culture. You have to incentivize individuals to share best practices. Most people are afraid it's going to take their job. Most people think, if I give up this secret, then, maybe that was a few hours a day that their boss thought they were working really hard when they weren't. So there's this whole thing of creating contests. There was one other thing, the way that, and I really love this thing about this Moderna thing. So we have contests on our site, on Inquest AI. We call them challenges. And Moderna, this is how they found their power AI users. They created a prompt contest, and they identified their 100 power users, who then kind of helped them shape how they're going to transform this culture in the company. So it's like, I have this platform, it's great. And so it was just so good to see, right? Because now I can show this to businesses and say, hey, this is like not just me saying this. This is what Moderna is doing, is to do with what 1,000 people, what would normally take previously 100,000 people. They say this. This is not me saying it. And so this is the thing. This is how people need to be thinking, because your competitor, it's not about getting efficiencies. It's actually just about keeping up to date with your competitors, right?
Yeah. Business, one of the business 101 for ever and ever and ever and ever. I mean, I don't know how far it goes back, but one of the main things that anybody that's in business knows was the standard term location. It was all about where you were located, and that was how successful your business could be. Obviously, with e-commerce and things like that, it has changed the landscape on a lot of things. But now, right now, we're at the beginning of a whole new turning point of how businesses are going to be successful. The likelihood of successfulness going forward, and right now it really is going to come down to how fast you adapt to your to the new competition, and artificial intelligence right now is a big time competitive edge that you can have, because there's a lot of companies out there that will, we're talking about a large company. Moderna's huge. They're well known worldwide. They're out there. But for all those people who are in the middle, you're fresh, your business is just starting out, or you're thinking about starting a business, or you're in you have 30 employees or you have 250 employees, you're the business that really needs to be focusing on this and putting forth the effort, because that's what's going to put you into the big leagues with everybody.
Well, and I also want to say real quickly here, I've talked, like, there's other giant companies I've talked to, they don't allow AI. That's the normal thing right now. Big companies are like, oh yeah, you can't use AI, or you can always use these tools, and it is insane. Those companies are going to have to change their tune real fast, just like professors or teachers that don't want to use this in the classroom. Like, how are you teaching your students? Not saying they should use it all the time. If you're learning, learn how to learn what you need to know, but then allow them to use those tools to then take it to the next level, because that's what's going to happen in the real world. And so, small companies don't have to sit around and get 1 million people to agree that they should use AI tools. They can use it right away. Those are the ones that are going to disrupt the larger companies that have so many of these decision makers. No one can make a decision. Everyone's saying, oh, it might hallucinate, and they are those. That's why Moderna is actually surprising. They're a big company. but I think their CEO very much just made that decision, right? And that is where a powerful leader needs to come in and say, this is what we're doing. We're going to start training everyone on it. They're all going to have to do it. It's not a choice. You have to use this. It's like using the internet. Like you're going to hire someone for your business if they're like, yeah, sorry, I refuse to have a cell phone. I refuse to use the internet, and I don't do email. You'd be like, well, sorry, like I run a business where all those things are necessary. And that's totally fine if that person doesn't want to do that. There's other jobs they can probably, do. So I'm not trying to, be mean here. But if your business is using the internet, is using email, is using, all these technologies, it's going to be using AI. And if you don't start training your employees now, when the next giant model comes out this next summer and it has all these other properties, you're going to be behind because your employees will not be able to pick up those tools and run. They're still going to be just looking at these like, I don't know what to do with these. Yeah. And so you have to start now, or you should have been starting probably a few months ago.
I mean, you made a perfect point when it comes to talking about education and not utilizing AI as part of your educational tool. I go back and I think to myself of being in high school and college, and there was a lot of teachers out there who were firm on you cannot utilize the internet to help you in your research paper. Even then, when that was a long time ago, when the internet, for me, the internet was still new, and there wasn't a whole lot out there you could really benefit from. With that said, I look back and I think of how much now it's expected to be used. It's understood that Google is going to be used when you're doing research papers and doing things, and how much more information and better you could get. I'm not saying you got to, you don't forget the the Dewey Decimal System, and you don't learn. Those are all important things to be taught and learn. But it's like you don't need to utilize the new tools.
Yeah, you don't need to know how to write a bibliography. I can't tell you how like that was just like you got to like write it this way. I'm like the internet's right here. You need to know how to source something, right? Don't plagiarize. But it's like these sometimes these academic institutions get so caught up in these things that are not important. I mean, cursive, learning how to do cursive, like all that. And of course, not everyone has a crystal ball, but I think this is very clear. It's going to be these are tools that people pick up. So you have to teach them the knowledge because they're going to guide the tools, or they need to vet the output of the tools. Maybe you can write some really great reports, and they need to say, hey, no, this is right or wrong. But they need to understand how to build tools, how to use tools. And, that I think schools, it's the same thing with schools that I see with businesses. Some are embracing it. Others are not. Some are kind of in between. It's professor by professor. And I think that's going to change rapidly.
Yeah. I think, kind of going back to you're talking about Inquest AI, talking about Moderna. I think a really good, if you're a professor out there, or you're in charge of whether you're homeschooling your kids, or you're in a public school, whatever the scenario is. I think I would take Inquest AI's thought process. I'll take Moderna's thought process. Do a competition, a custom GPT competition with your students. Let them give them parameters about what you're wanting to do, and give them documents that they can upload and utilize it with, and see what you can get. And then you take the top 5, top 10, or whatever's in your class, and then continue spend the entire. That could be an entire semester or school year of fine tuning certain custom GPTs to get to the point. I think that's a great skill to teach kids, and whether it's science, math, there's so much you can do with each subject. And I think for any teacher who's not utilizing that, I think that's a good idea for Inquest AI. Maybe that's something that you should do is, reach out to schools and help.
Yes. So my dad's a professor at Northwestern, and they had a competition at the Kellogg School, and they had a business come in, and these students came from a bunch of great schools. There was a Chicago Booth School of Business, there was Carnegie Mellon, and I've got some nice connections in with all of those students. I'm hoping they're going to be my AI champions that go and get some professors, right? And so I've already been following up them. I've got a Kellogg professor and some engineering professors that are going to be doing this. And so our platform's already built for this. In the private group section, they can have they can basically have each class, and then you can have private challenges, which is kind of be like homework assignments. And those homework assignments, you can upload all the different shared conversations you used from different platforms like ChatGPT, Bing, Gemini, others, and the bots that you use, right? And soon you're going to be able to upload your Suno songs. So, so a lot of really cool stuff happening. And I think that businesses and schools are in the same boat. They need to be embracing this. They need to be teaching this, and so the ones that do are going to be far more successful than the ones that don't.
I mean, and for small companies out there, do it with your employees as well. I tell whatever your problem is, find what your biggest problem is in your business, and just talk with your employees, or reach out to a team that can help you brainstorm of what in your industry of what your problems could be, and then help them, allow them to help you create custom GPTs that would benefit you. It's the best investment you'll make, I promise.
Yeah, and then you can also go on our site and just type in task or what the job description, and you'll get a list of the conversations and the GPTs that are most used. And you can see. You click on a GPT, and then you can see all the conversations that people have done with them and see how people are using them, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then also, well, I don't want to go too far into this, but yeah, the point is that creating these tools for your employees should be able to give them massive gains, right? Moderna here said that they're going to be able to do with 1,000 people what would normally take 100,000. So it's not just me saying this anymore, right? It's not just another person. I wasn't the only person saying this, but now this is like real deal. This should make heads turn, and executives in companies, big and small, say, okay, you know what, we really got to rethink this if they weren't already thinking about doing this.
Yeah, I agree. And what better thing, you and I both are extremely passionate about it. So for anybody that's watching or listening or whatever the scenario is, reach out to us. We would definitely, as obviously if you're listening to us, we love talking about this stuff. And we talk about it all day long, but we also know what we're talking about and how to utilize it. So we would definitely love to have a conversation with anybody, whether you're just a business owner or you're somebody that wants to get into the AI, world and understand it more. Yeah. So definitely would love to.
And a real quick thing to add to that is that, not whether it's a company looking to just understand the whole landscape, to get a whole, I just gave a Wells Fargo presentation to private clients in the Wells Fargo about just the whole landscape, all these tools. And I mean, some people were distraught over it, frankly, because they're like, wow, this is a little too much. And I understand because they hadn't seen much of it, the power of these tools. So I think it's important that happens. And then also, if you guys need custom GPTs made, or even development where we use the API and we put like some whole chat on your website and everything, that stuff I do, that stuff I have a whole team for. We make custom GPTs. That's how I met Eric, is that he was, making a bunch of custom GPTs. And on my site, I was seeing all the best custom GPTs because we have them there. So we have a whole network of GPT builders that are hungry for work. And so, let us know and we'll be happy to help you on that journey.
Absolutely. That's what we're excited about. We just having the opportunity to be able to talk to somebody about it. I could unfortunately I could talk about it too much, and I would spend most of my time just excitement of what it can do for you as a business. So definitely, this episode we talked a lot about what businesses are doing and how businesses can benefit from it and what they're already doing to benefit from it. And if you don't join in now in the competition of it, I promise you, whether you want to accept it or not, whether you like AI, whether you like the privacy concerns, you don't want to utilize it. If you don't utilize it, you will be left behind. It just is what it is, unfortunately. So don't be that person that says I shoulda, coulda, woulda.
No matter what business you're in, there's always something you can do, even if you think you can't. You have a knowledge base and a bunch of documents, it's policies. You create GPTs for these so people can easily search all the policies very quickly, whether if you're a property manager, right? you can search all the rules for individual properties really quickly. If you're a client, if you're managing many clients, just in general, you can create a GPT for each client, upload all the documents to that client, and then try to remember like what's going on with that. Get a to-do list going. If you have, summarize your meeting calls, right? You can use a GPT to summarize a meeting call. And then people need to start thinking about, soon we're going to be able to chain these together. We've talked about this in the past, chain tools together. So you build your building blocks. A custom GPT is a building block, and you stack them on top of each other. So you might have a meeting summarizer one, then you say, hey, send that meeting summary to Inquest AI GPT, because that's my client is Inquest AI. And now that summary then gets logged in that GPT. And so now it's updated there. And then you say, hey, Inquest AI talks about creating a social media post. So now we're going to go ahead and say, we're going to call the social media GPT that we created and say, talk to the Inquest AI GPT and create a new media post on the last meeting that we just had. That's all going to be possible here in the next few months, okay? You can already have them talk to each other. They're just not doing it good enough. But this is just, people have to start skating where the puck's going. Think about your AI strategy of what you will do when this is possible, because it will be possible soon.
Yes.
And then you'll be so much more further ahead. A lot of this too is just getting your data together. Given this is the case, get your data together so that you're ready to implement these tools when they become ready. And then for all the builders out there, just start ideating, because day one, you want to be the one that's taking advantage of having the best custom GPT like tools or custom agents. There'll be agentic, so that you can build them right away. And you've already thought about this.
Yeah. I'm completely, I wish we could sit down and actually have conversations with, I wish I could have a lineup every day and just having these conversations about how much, and just, like you said, you were giving a presentation of showing what you can do, and people they get blown away from it. And the capabilities is just unimaginable. And we really should do some time where we pull up ChatGPT on this thing and start showing people like, what we can do individually. It's especially with math. Math is the most amazing thing to me, what it can do, and grading papers and stuff like that. Because my kid has not very good handwriting. He's in 5th grade, and sometimes when he gets in a hurry, it's good handwriting whenever he tries, but when he's not. But I've taken a picture of his homework, and somehow, where I can barely understand it, the AI can read his handwriting, interpret what he's trying to say. And it blows my mind when he's doing like long division, and it can read what his steps are, and I'm like, how in the world is it even detecting what it is? And it does, and it catches where the mistake is, and it tells them how to fix it. And it's because of the custom GPT that I've created. That's like, you're going to give this approach to a kid who's in 5th grade with ADHD, and it will give him step-by-step instructions of how to fix it. It's mind-boggling of how it works. So
yeah,
I love it, every bit of it. Well, I think that's all we are going to talk about today on episode 4. It's been definitely a very much more informative episode, and I like it a lot. So anything that you want to say before we close it out, Dan?
No, that's awesome. We're done number 4. It's great. On to number 5.
Yeah. And just to think, we just, with episode 1, we were like, well, we don't know if we're going to continue this on or not, but it just feels so good to be able to sit down and have the conversations and share it out there with the world. So please, anybody who's watching, listening, like, subscribe. That's what benefits everybody, is the more we can get in this community and listen to us and join the conversation, the more interactive we can be. Definitely just looking forward to it all. So if you have nothing else, we'll go ahead and close it out. Definitely stay tuned. Next week will be episode 5. Episode 5 is going to be a big one. I think we'll try to step it up a little bit more for episode 5. That's a big mark to make after doing nothing. So
Awesome. All right,
guys. Hope everybody has a good day, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right.